Call 6 Investigates has uncovered millions of your tax dollars are going to city settlements. We're talking about the money that the city pays out for things like police excessive force or when a city vehicle damages your property. We're going to show you several examples of people who receive city settlements courtesy of your tax money. The surveillance cameras are rolling on this Indigo bus on March 10th, 2017.
When I got the walk light, I proceeded to cross the street to head to work.
The bus driver starts to make a turn from Meridian onto West Michigan Street. You can see Roger Cave starting to walk into the crosswalk when the bus hits him.
I vaguely remember being flung. At that point, I had closed my eyes.
Roger lays in the street, barely able to lift his head up.
And I remember skidding across the street and was expecting the bus to run over me, but thankfully that didn't happen.
The crash breaks bones all over Roger's body, including his fingers.
It shattered my knee. I couldn't stand.
But Roger and his attorneys with Leidendorf Law want others to know you can fight back.
He didn't ask to be hit by a bus. He didn't ask to have all of those injuries. He didn't ask to be put in the public's eye.
Roger filed a lawsuit against Indigo, alleging he had a walk sign and Indigo was negligent. Roger went on to win a $650,000 settlement to cover medical bills, lost wages, pain, and suffering. His attorneys say Roger should have gotten more. Is it hard to get a big settlement out of the government?
Yes. It's hard to get a small settlement out of the government. Their worst day is limited. And a lot of times they know that they have a lot of the cards, and it's hard.
The Indiana Tort Claims Act caps what you can receive when suing a government agency at $700,000.
So that $700,000 is for everything, for medical bills, for lost wages, for future medical bills, and as well as pain and suffering.
What do you think about the cap?
I think it's too low. I think the cap does a good job of attempting to protect taxpayer dollars without doing a very good job of protecting its taxpayers.
The Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, which operates Indigo, is funded in part with your tax dollars. Call 6 Investigates found Indigo's had 31 settlements totaling more than $1.5 million since January 2018. Indigo is not alone. Government entities often agree to settlements as a way to avoid costly litigation and huge jury awards. Call 6 Investigates found the city of Indianapolis has paid out more than $6 million in taxpayer money since January 2018. Roger is not working, in part because of his injuries.
I can no longer type with this hand. I'm upset that I didn't get more.
You could have used that money.
Oh, yeah.
The bus driver is no longer working at Indigo. Indigo says safety is a top priority, and whenever there's a crash or an injury, they respond with an immediate investigation, drug and alcohol screenings, and employee retraining or discipline if necessary. Our Call 6 Investigates team has been crunching the numbers when it comes to city settlements. Many people would say Roger Cave deserved the money he received, but you might feel differently about the next group of people you're about to see. State prisoners receiving city settlements. We headed behind prison walls to find out how they're getting a chunk of your tax dollars. Marquise Lewins is a prisoner at the Correctional Industrial Facility in Pendleton. The courts call him a serious violent felon. He's doing 12 years behind bars for unlawful firearm possession. Marquise recently received a settlement check courtesy of Marion County taxpayers.
So you got $4,000?
Yes, I did.
What do you think that taxpayers think about sending money to people in prison?
If I was them, I'd be pretty much upset.
Marquise got the settlement after filing this federal lawsuit against IMPD, alleging that during a 2014 narcotics raid, an officer kicked in his teeth.
It's loose still to right there, and this one's kicked out. And
so you're missing teeth? That's from police kicking you in the
face?
face?
I don't really like talking a lot because, cause my teeth are so messed up now. I went through a lot.
Marquise hoped to spend the settlement money on his teeth, but that can't happen until he's out in 2028. Instead, he spent your tax dollars to pay for his mom's funeral and a little for himself.
I put a little bit on my books, got like more hygiene.
You know, some people are going to be upset when they find out that taxpayer money is going to felons in prison, like yourself.
I mean, I could understand it, I had jobs before and I had to pay my taxes. And I wouldn't want nobody just to get no freebie off me. I ain't trying to get no freebie off anyone.
We found at least 4 other examples of state prisoners who received settlement checks. Omar Greggs, in prison for burglary, got $2,100 after he claimed IMPD wrongfully seized his money. Ronald Williams, in prison for murder, got $3,500 after he said inmates assaulted him at the Marion County Jail. Santana Gray's lawsuit says he struck a deputy in the face while at the jail, and deputies retaliated by pepper spraying, kicking, and stomping on him. He got $3,500. And state prisoner Devin Bertram got $8,500 after he claimed the jail failed to give him a wheelchair or proper medical care.
What do you say to people that say, how are my taxpayer dollars going to people that are in prison?
If something unfortunate happens to you that you are entitled to compensation for, you're free to file that lawsuit, and your rights are just as protected as anyone else's.
Donnie Morgan is corporation counsel for Indianapolis and Marion County and says settling complaints for a few $1,000s can help save taxpayer money by avoiding costly litigation and jury awards.
If we do make a mistake, whether it's in medical care or some other issue, I would rather settle that case cheaply and effectively and early, as opposed to going to a trial and ended up losing maybe 10 times that amount of taxpayer money.
And it's not just criminals receiving your tax dollars. We found the city's paid out more than $6.2 million in taxpayer money for 180 settlements. Some are small, like property damage caused by city vehicles or potholes. Some are much bigger, like settlements involving excessive force or police shootings that hurt or killed people. And the top type of settlement? Car crashes with city vehicles like IMPD cruisers, IFD trucks, and DPW vehicles. More than half of the settlements were for car crashes.
So is this a good use of taxpayer money?
Absolutely. But we at any given time have hundreds of cars on the road. I don't think it's surprising that we have, dozens of car accidents every year.
Just because the city reaches a settlement doesn't mean they're admitting they're at fault.
That's right. And I would actually suggest that in most instances, we probably disagree about a lot of things.
Marquise Lewins wrote and filed his own complaint with the help of offenders.
So what's your message to other people that might be thinking about suing the city to get money?
I mean, if you feel like you in the right and they're in the wrong, you need to pursue what you feel in your heart and just go with it.
It was May 31st, 2018. Gordon Mitchum says he was in his East Side backyard minding his own business. IMPD officers were looking for carjacking suspects.
The police car went by real fast. I went to see who it was.
The retired postal worker heard a rustling and then
She pulled me out of the chair, and that's where I ended up, down here on the ground. Yeah. I was on the ground like this, flat my back.
an IMPD canine bit his leg.
I was just hoping I wouldn't pass out.
Gordon says he was terrified.
I said, oh, Jesus, he grabbed my leg, and he just latched onto it and just held onto it.
He filed this lawsuit June 7th of this year, alleging excessive force and that IMPD was negligent in failing to train its canines.
These dogs are out of control. Here we have a completely innocent man violated by the police who are supposed to protect us. Quite frankly, IMPD can't control their dogs. This happens over and over and over again.
Attorney John Little's firm also represented Mara Mancini. She received $90,000 from taxpayers. She sued IMPD after she was attacked and bit by an IMPD canine.
Is a lawsuit usually a last resort?
I mean, in Indiana, it's your only option.
Gordon's case is still pending, so no settlement just yet. Call 6 Investigates found IMPD has more settlements than any other city agency. They account for a third of all settlements, $3.7 million paid out. They're the largest city agency, and police payouts are the most costly to taxpayers. Among the top complaints that led to settlements, police shootings where people were injured or killed, excessive force allegations, and car crashes involving IMPD cruisers.
The city is spending millions of dollars on these settlements. Do you think it's a good use of taxpayer money?
I think it's a necessary use. I think it's necessary because of the way we function and the difficult things that our officers do.
The chief says they look at what the department could have done differently and says IMPD does internal investigations as needed to make sure proper procedures are followed and make changes accordingly to prevent future incidents like canine bites.
Sometimes those things happen, but I think it's important that we recognize that. What are those damages? We make that right.
The chief says they're always looking for ways to improve, whether they're sued or not.
We're an agency that serves the citizens of Indianapolis, and I think that's the expectation of us.
The city's legal department, known as Corporation Counsel, meets regularly with the chief and mayor to talk about trends with settlement claims, and they discuss any changes needed when it comes to training or policies.
Our job is to look out for the taxpayer.
Mayor Joe Hogsett emphasizes just because the city reaches a settlement does not mean they're admitting fault, but rather it's a way to avoid costly litigation and big jury awards.
Are there any types of settlements that concern you more than others?
Well, ones that are too high are always a concern.
What do you say to people that say the city is paying out this money because of mistakes and missteps?
It's rarely intentional in nature. If a mistake has been made, and if it is likely that a city worker is at fault, we take that very seriously.
Hogsett's office says they've had a 43% reduction in litigation expenses in the first 3 years in office. IMPD does not comment on pending litigation, including what happened to Gordon.
I wasn't doing anything wrong, I'm in my own backyard.
Gordon says he's an example of someone who deserves money for what happened to him.
And sometimes my ankle hurts me down there where I can't hardly wear my shoe. Yeah.
He still has pain and numbness in his leg more than a year after the canine bit him. Gordon hopes to fully recover so he can go back to enjoying his retirement and his porch.
If you're thinking about filing a lawsuit or a complaint against the city just to make a quick buck, think again. The city says they don't just throw money at people, so make sure your claim has merit before you file it. Reporting in Indianapolis, I'm Call 6 Investigates' Kara Kenny.